When I started this lesson on pivot tables, I said that pivot tables were a great way to create a summary without having to enter any formulas at all. But sometimes you're going to need to create a formula in order to make your pivot table do something else. In this particular data set, we have fields for revenue, cost of goods sold, profit, quantity. What if we needed to calculate a gross profit percent? That's profit divided by revenue. Well, it's possible to add a brand new field to our pivot table field list using a formula. Now let's restructure our pivot table a bit. I'm going to take this new customer to field and remove it from the pivot table report. I'm going to add the customer field along the left-hand side. Currently, the report just has revenue. I'm going to add profit as a second sum values column. All right, now we want to add a new formula to our pivot table. The formulas are controlled on the Options tab of the ribbon using the Formulas dropdown. There are two kinds of formulas that you can add, a calculated field and a calculated item. A calculated field adds a brand new field to the pivot table field list, and that's what we want to do in this case. So I choose calculated field, and Excel shows me all of the fields that are available in the pivot table field list. First, I want to give this field a name, perhaps a name like profit percent, and then I have to build the formula. Initially, the formula starts out with equals 0. I need to get rid of the 0, so I'm going to click to the right of the 0 and hit the backspace key to get rid of the 0. Now, my formula here is pretty simple. It's profit divided by revenue. I can click on the profit field and then click on Insert Field. Next, I want to type the divide sign. This is just like building Excel formulas. The slash is used for divide. And then I want to insert the revenue field. Now, instead of clicking on revenue and then Insert Field, you can simply double-click the revenue field. There I have a new field called profit percent. It is profit divided by revenue. I'll click OK, and the new field is automatically added to my pivot table. It'd be really nice if I could format that field as a percentage. If I select one cell in the field and then use the Field Settings button in the ribbon. In the lower left-hand corner of this dialog is the number format button. Choose the number format that you need. In this case, percentage with either 0 or 1 decimal places would probably be appropriate. Excel has now added a new virtual field to our data set. That's a formula that is a new pivot field. Pivot fields are very useful. I find all sorts of occasions where I can use them. The other type of formula is a pivot item. And I need to warn you that pivot items can be very dangerous if you don't understand how they work. There's also a very specific limitation. You cannot create a calculated item if you have any grouped fields in the pivot table. Now, we've already grouped customer to and we've grouped years. The best thing to do at this point is to delete the pivot table and start over. So I'm going to delete sheet 1. I'm going to right-click on the sheet tab and choose delete. We're back to our original data set. I'm going to create a pivot table again very quickly. Remember, we choose Insert and then Pivot Table. Click OK. And now we have a fresh pivot table. I'm going to add the region is down the left-hand side and revenue in the sum values. Now let's say that in our company there was just a reorg and there's now a vice president in charge of the central and north regions. We want to create a new item along the region field that will sum those two regions up. I want you to take a look at the total revenue in cell B7. We have $13.2 million of revenue. In order to create a calculated item, I need to choose one cell along the region field. Choose Central, and now when I go to the Formulas dropdown, calculated item is a valid value. I'm going to create a new formula, give the formula a name, and type a formula of Central plus North. Click OK. Now you see what's happened. Microsoft has added a brand new item along the region dimension, new VP, and it happens that that 8.3 million is the 4.6 million plus 3.6 million. However, they've added that total, and our company is now a $21 million company instead of a $13 million company. Very, very frustrating the way that this works. The only way that this would ever make sense is if we would remove the central and north regions from the pivot table entirely. Deselect central, north, and now we're back to 13.2 million. If you use calculated items, please be very, very careful that you don't accidentally leave the source items and the calculated item along the same dimension.